Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully most of you know one of the big parts of my job as Police and Crime Commissioner is to represent you, listen to your voice, make sure it's being heard at the highest levels. I get lots of questions from you as members of the public around issues affecting your communities in relation to policing. And so tonight we have decided that we are going to put some of those questions directly to our Chief Constable. So thank you, Rob, for joining us this evening. So this is the first time we're trying this, so please give us your feedback, drop some comments in the chat box if you can, and let us know how you find it. And hopefully you enjoy it. So thank you for joining. As I say, you are now into 8 months since you've taken over as Chief Constable. How are you finding it?
It's hectic, a bit of a blur still, but very, very stimulating. Had a great welcome. I've got to say I'm really enjoying it. I know I made the right decision, but at the same time I know it could go wrong at any stage because it is one of those jobs. But at the same time, I know it could go wrong at any stage because it is one of those jobs. But you know what you're getting into before you come. But had a great welcome. I think people have really responded well to the restructure. There's a lot of positivity. There's some fantastic work going on. I mean, we're not perfect. We make mistakes, but it's one of those organisations that's going to learn, move on. But it's so far so good, I've got to say.
Good. So you mentioned there the force restructure. So obviously that was a big piece of work that you did. Can you tell us a bit more about what that restructure was and what impact you think that's been having on, I guess, frontline officers, but also the benefits that communities might be seeing?
Yeah, so it's a really good point because when I came here, I did a lot of research before, starting. Obviously, I did research for the board and then for more research just to see what we needed to do to improve what we did for communities across Merseyside to make it safer. I had concerns with the model we had. It's called a functional model. It's a centralised model. We've moved to a model where you've got we split the force into four. You've got chief superintendents, uniformed chief superintendents, sitting at the top of four, if you like, areas, but they've got their own resources. They've got neighbourhood resources. They've got response. And they've got investigation CID themselves as well, with all the other stuff that comes with that. So we still keep some things centralised, like human resources, finance, intelligence as well. But the other aspects, you are making a closer link to the public, local partners as well. You're more accountable. It's easier in terms of a leadership structure. So it's easier for me anyway to get a tune out of, really. We implemented a lot of people said it couldn't be done by the 1st of April. We did it on the 29th of March. St Helens and Knowsley have joined. Liverpool stands on its own as the biggest BCU, Basic Command Unit, and you've got Wirral and Sefton, similar sizes, both quite meaty areas, with all the resources that come with it. So far, I mean, we hadn't hit the priority target for response calls. So we'd have to, for certain calls, our priority calls, we'd have to get there in 60 minutes. We haven't hit that target in over 12 years. In fact, we've been miles away from it. And that's one of the reasons why we moved to a different structure, because I didn't think we could take some of the areas off the risk register we needed to, like, for instance, response and patrol and investigations. And there's other issues as well. But straight away, we've taken response and patrol off the risk register already. We're at 96, 97%. Now, I don't know how sustainable that is. It's early days yet. I totally understand that. But it's a massive improvement from 46%. And these are serious jobs where there are people that need arresting, like shoplifters. You've got dangers to the public. You've got all manner of things in there that are important that we attend when we say we do. So I'm really pleased about that, but it's not all about that metric. It's about lots of other things. We've got an enhanced neighbourhood offer now with another 67 officers in neighbourhood policing. There's another 80 on response and patrol. We've got a new crime management unit. We've got a foreign offenders unit dedicated. There are 3 town centre operations now dedicated. So if you look to just Liverpool city centre, the nighttime economy in Liverpool now, the officers that staff that operation are from Liverpool BCU. Other than the big sort of high risk weekends or events, it's you sort of, you've got more ownership and accountability because you're dealing with the places you police on a normal daily basis.
Yeah.
So more accountability, better local knowledge. It's a win-win. and it sort of allows then the other officers to focus on their areas. Like you've got your St Helens with the nighttime economy, Birkenhead got nighttime economy, so you've got those opportunities there as well. So I think it really firms up neighbourhood policing, gives a much bigger opportunity to improve that, which I know is so important to the public. Absolutely. Visible policing, but it also helps us to improve performance. So for instance, another metric that's really important is the amount of investigations, offences under investigation now. That's gone up. That's because we're holding on to more to investigate more, because you've got a greater number of police officers now investigating crime. Previously, it was just investigations and very few uniformed officers took crimes. Now we're trying to rebalance it. So it means that what my prediction is, you'll see an increase in outcome rates for, shoplifting and things like that, criminal damage, which are important to people locally, whereas before we just haven't got the balance right. So it's a viable structure. As I say, early days yet. We'll see.
No, well, I think that's all very welcome, and I think certainly when I go out and speak to members of the community, they want more visibility, they want more neighbourhood policing, they want to know that their crime is going to be taken seriously, and they want to get a positive outcome, as you say. They want offenders to be held to justice, so and held to account. So I think that all sounds very welcome. Okay, so moving on then to another question we've had. This was about officer deployment and particularly single crewing. And this is something that I obviously go out and talk to officers quite a bit as part of my job and get lots of feedback from officers. And one thing that does come up is how often they sometimes are singly crewed and some of the risks that can present around that. So what steps are being taken to manage those risks and ensure that officers are kept safe while they continue to deliver an effective service?
Well, there is statistically a greater risk if you're single crewed to double crewed. I can't.
And I should probably say, do you want us to explain what single crewing is?
Sorry, so in a police field, say typically a marked police vehicle with the Battenberg markings, uniformed police officers say, let's take response and patrol. Double crewed would be two people, a driver and a passenger, and obviously single crewed is just the driver. If you're single crewed, you can spread your resources further. You can respond to crime more. You can take up strategic points in Merseyside where you can impact on antisocial behaviour. There's more chance of spotting crime when it happens because you're spreading those resources. That said, there is the risk issue as well. Statistically, there is a greater risk, but we do have PPE, we do have taser, we do have batons. I think what we've got to realise is that Merseyside is the smallest, second smallest geographical police force in the country. Why that's important is help is at hand very quickly in Merseyside. If you call for assistance, it's going to come in minutes. The cavalry will come to your assistance in minutes and you will be well supported. But that's not to say we don't have double crew cars. We do. I know we do now. And even the changes in specials, they are now supporting response and patrol officers, double crew cars. But we have, officers that are double crewed now anyway. It's a blend. So I think it's just balance and balancing our offer to our own officers, but also to the public as well. And the other side of the coin is if crime is growing and violent crime is growing because we're not getting to offences, you're opening the door really for more violence in a policing area anyway. So I think it's a road that runs both ways, but certainly we've got to balance the officers' offer to the public. And my personal view is we weren't doing as well as we should, hence the restructure. And I think our performance, I use the word performance, for policing, performance is public safety. Every number is a person. So performance is very important. It's not management speak. But performance in response and patrol, respond when people call us. The improvements are remarkable. Good.
Okay, right, next question then. So we've had another question come in about the use of custody suites on Merseyside. So are there any plans to open further custody suites on a full or a part-time basis? I'm conscious that obviously I sign off the estate strategy and we published that a couple of years ago. So there's a role there in terms of my office and what we invest in. But from your perspective, how do you think we could do more around custody suites and making sure that there's capacity?
Unless you found huge amounts of money, I suppose it's the cost really that's involved in custody estate. It's a phenomenal amount of money. Would I like a centralised custody suite? the modern best best we can provide officers and staff, and obviously detain persons. I wouldn't hesitate. It would be great. We've got 4 at the moment where we got Belle Vale, Marsh Lane, we've got St Anne Street, and Over the Water on the Wirral as well. So there's 4. We've got 4 custody suites at the moment. I think the capacity is something like 109 cell capacity. We're business as usual is around about the 100 mark, where cells need repairing or there's damage or whatever. We've gone over that capacity 3 times in the last 12 months, by quite big numbers actually on those 3 occurrences. There are only 3 occurrences, so it's unusual to have to go over. So we should be planning for normality rather than extremes. When the extremes come, we have arrangements with our neighbouring forces like Operation General. I think Operation General with Cheshire, where they will take our excess prisoners, and that arrangement is reciprocated with us. Like, for instance, a big operation in Cheshire the day, we would support with officers from Merseyside. We try and help each other where possible. The same is said for custody. We have a custody control, we have dedicated senior officers for custody, so they're managing the capacity. We're transferring staff when we need to based on demand. It's all very key in terms of the nighttime economy at the weekend, and of course big events planned, processed. It always features in big operational orders for pre-planned policing operations. So it's always considered very clearly. We do okay at the moment. We just had a Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary Fire and Rescue Services, the independent scrutiny, the inspection police forces, and there are no major concerns that the areas to improve. But I think capacity is a sort of red light at the moment. If I had the choice and had the money all day long, definitely take it. But I suppose if we use the money on that, what are we not using the money on? It's a huge undertaking. That's not to say we're not going to have discussions in the future, but if it's possible, it'd be great. But that we're not suffering in an extreme way with the current custody estate.
Good, okay. And as you say, I think it's a balance, because we've spent quite a lot in our local policing hubs, for example, and opening some of our local police stations, which we know what a difference that makes for local communities. So I think, as you say, it's always a balance between where you put your investment. Okay, so next question then is, we've had several questions, and we have touched on this in previous meetings as well, around the Special Constabulary. So obviously our Special Constabulary, these are volunteers who volunteer to be police officers. They run alongside our regular police officers. I've met a number of them. I spoke to a number of them over the Christmas period a few months ago, and they do an absolutely incredible job. Their commitment, their dedication to giving up their free time, I think is absolutely incredible. Now I know they've gone through a bit of a change recently, so we had some questions asking about an update on the role of the specials within Merseyside Police and how you see them working in the future.
Well, it's a very interesting question, because I received 2 letters as the Chief Constable of Cumbria before I'd even taken the board, promotion board for Merseyside, saying, we think you're going to come to Merseyside. If you do, can you have a look at specials as soon as you get there, because we've got some real problems. So numbers are coming down. I think there were 118, something like that a couple of years ago. We're at 104 or 5-ish, something like that, in that neck of the woods, with a few departures expected. They are a precious resource. They are people who are giving up the time to come and support Merseyside Police, make Merseyside safer. They do a great job, and we're very lucky to have them. But I'm going to be bluntly honest, all's not been well with the specials, hence those 2 letters. And that probably, since coming back and pulling back the carpet, there was a review that's taken place. I wasn't really happy with what had been proposed, because it wasn't going to take us on. There's leadership problems there, there's morale problems, there's use of them, there's training problems, all sorts of things that shouldn't happen that I've become aware of. Long story short, we've taken the review onto a different place now, and taken the decision that we're going to prune the temporary rank structure and use substantive police officers to become more involved with the supervision and leadership of specials. As a default position, specials coming into Merseyside now will go to a response and patrol block in one of the 4 BCUs, the 4 areas in Merseyside, where they'll be supervised properly. Now people will say, well, hang on a second, what if I want to work extra and that block's not on? I said, well, I would rather you work with the block and you are looked after by particular sergeants and particular inspectors. You got to know the team, you got to work with them and develop your skills there. It means that we can look after the precious resource we've got and build the offer we give to specials. There are some there are some sort of exceptions to that rule where people have developed a specialism, but that will be governed by the ACC. Alex Goss, who's in charge of or looks after the BCUs, he will decide by exception whether we should move away from response or not, and judge each case on its merits. But it's a great job. It's a great force. I absolutely, I couldn't commend it any more strongly. But we, to be honest, we did need to work on the offer to our special colleagues, and I think we've got a far better offer now.
Good. Well, I think that'd be very welcome. And as I say, when I spoke to some of the specials, they were saying what a brilliant time they have and how much they, value being able to do the work they're doing. So I think that extra support will be appreciated as well. And obviously, if you want to be a special, we have vacancies, so please get involved. Right, next question then is around, a couple of interesting questions now, hopefully a bit more straightforward, about vehicles and uniforms. So the first question is, why are Merseyside Police vans yellow?
I think a lot of police vehicles are, wherever you go in the country, are bright colours. They're bright colours because they've got to stand out. So you're typically in urban environments, it's busy. So for instance, if you're driving around Liverpool, lots of pedestrians, you've got lots of traffic, lots of roadworks. There's always something happening, in terms of, road improvements, safety improvements, etc. It's difficult to navigate and get from one location to another. Yeah. Particular sort of blue light. So for the safety of the public, for the safety of police officers as well. Yeah. That's why we've got the blue lights and the sirens. We're trying to announce that the police vehicle is there. Further to it, just rather than just safety, it's also a deterrence. We want people to see police vehicles, know that police are in the area. It should be. I know it is for the vast majority of people a very reassuring presence. In terms, most of the complaints we would get from police is that we don't see the police enough. Hence the importance of neighbourhood policing. So that's what they're meant to be bright. They're meant to be seen. Safety and reassurance.
Good. And then one of the other questions then was about uniforms. So when I speak to colleagues around the country, if our police officers have gone to other parts of the country, for example, to support different operations, I get a lot of feedback about how smart Merseyside police officers often look. And I think some of that is because they continue to wear the white shirts, whereas I think in other parts of the country they've moved to kind of black polo shirts and that kind of thing. Is there a reason why Merseyside has continued to wear the white shirts?
That's a good question, and it's very topical. So we are undertaking a uniform review at the moment. It doesn't include shirts at the moment, but it does improve the quality of uniform that officers are given. If you want to be an outstanding force, you've got to feel outstanding in your kit, haven't you? You've got to have the best kit and equipment, which is important. Why white shirts? I think we're one of 2 forces now. I think it's the Met and us that have white shirts for all ranks. And most forces have gone with blacks. Black. Quite modern. Probably better with body armour, wicking, all that type of comfort potentially. So I can see the argument for it, but I couldn't justify it on just what we've always done, and it's traditional. I think it's more about smartness. It does look particularly smart, and you want Merseyside to stand out as the best force. Yeah. A lot of people comment on that. So whereas the rest of the kit's in play and we're trying to improve it in every way we can, for the moment, I think white shirts will stay, and we'll see where that goes. Okay. Right. We move on now then to our next question, which is one that I get a lot of comments through, and I'm sure you will too as well when you speak to members of the public, is around the electric bikes. So we've been particularly asked about the use of electric bikes by hooded or masked individuals, often linked to drug dealing and intimidation. And this kind of links as well to the work we're doing around antisocial behaviour, but I don't know if you've got anything you want to talk about the work you're doing around that. So I suppose that you make a really good point there, because it's, you've got e-bikes, scramble bikes, etc. We've seen a real sort of emergence of it, haven't we, in recent years? used in for antisocial behaviour, big groups of people, road safety issues, dangerous driving, wrong way up the road. But the other side of it then is a more sinister. I'm not saying that justifying that you know, that's something we've got to stop, but it does go up a level in terms of being more sinister. And bikes actually used for serious crime, even discharging of firearms. So, you know, you can see it's a broad spectrum there, but it is a problem for us, and it's difficult to police. It's a real big challenge. So, for instance, we've had challenges policing this Merseyside for a number of years, but we are seen as best practice nationally. So we get forces coming to us to say, you know, how have you had so much success? So, for instance, I'm not saying we still haven't got problems. We absolutely have, but in the last 15 months, there's been over 1,000 bikes, scramblers, e-bikes.
This is up gears, isn't it?
Up gears.
Yeah.
It's a nationally now, not operational gears. We've got really great people, you know, Phil Mullally, superintendent, and his colleagues who've done a fantastic job driving this, and had some fantastic results in terms of targeted disruption, bike seizures, but also there's another element to it as well, education, getting people to understand you know, the impact of what they're doing, but also getting into schools earlier and trying to sort of head them off at an earlier age. It's incredibly difficult, but you know, to seize over 1,000 bikes, you know, two-wheel vehicles in just over 15 months, it is pretty remarkable, and it's all down to this focus. We went live, just as we went live with the BCU, I think it might have been that week actually, I would take that with a health warning, but I think there were another, I think it was about 8 bikes, something like that, seized on the Wirral, and a number of excellent results just as we were going live into the BCU. So these operations are taking place in Merseyside, you know, all the time. You may have seen, well, yeah, I know you've seen the Operation Vanguard, the big operations. We've done 2 of those already. Loads of focus on the bikes themselves. So we've got all sorts of Operation Quad bikes out. So loads of seizures, which you made a lot of publicity about. We've got to keep pushing because that problem's not solved. You see it all the time, and it merges then into sorts of antisocial behaviour. So we have emergence of, you know, Speak Retail Park. We've had people affecting the buses.
Yeah, we had some particular questions about Walton as well, and there's a few areas where antisocial behaviour does come up quite a lot. When I go out with, you know, walkabouts and go out with local policing and councillors and MPs, we get a lot of questions about antisocial behaviour in particular.
And I'm not surprised, because that's the thing that affects people's lives, and it is a bit like a weed. If you don't tackle it or take it on, it grows into something that you can't control. So it's a it feels like a continuous wrestling match at the moment with the bikes. But as I say, there's been some great successes. That also links into wider proactivity. So Merseyside has we're an outlier really nationally in terms of stop and search powers, which I'm particularly proud of. And that is a very, very important piece of legislation for policing. And colleagues in Merseyside use it very, very well, and long may it continue. But it's another example of us working hard to tackle and disrupt criminality. And that includes obviously the bikes and antisocial behaviour. We've got the Public Spaces Protection Order, which has gone live in Liverpool. Gives us more opportunity to work and sort of deal with antisocial behaviour. But there's dispersal orders that are taking place, you know, quite regularly. We talked about Walton. We've got Speak Retail Park. Allerton Road has been problematic recently. In fact, I was out in Allerton Road in the last couple of weekends. Great police presence. Really, really good visibility. Has it solved the problem? No, it's moving it. It's temporarily stopping it. It's having an impact for a time. We just got to keep up the pressure. We've got to keep up the pressure. And I'd just say to anybody who's listening, you know, to your programme, give us information, keep telling us what's happening, and we will respond. And I think that's definitely one area where the new model is beneficial. I'm absolutely confident, particularly the calibre of the 4 chief superintendents who lead in those 4 areas. They are very, very strong senior police officers, and they're very excited about the job they've got, and they will listen. So keep the information coming in, and we'll do everything we can to help.
Great. And it's worth saying as well that we obviously, I invest quite heavily in some youth diversion as well, because obviously the police have got an important role to play.
Okay.
But we also want to make sure that we look at, investing in opportunities for young people to divert them away from antisocial behaviour potentially. So the work we've done through our youth empowerment scheme, which is just closed for this year, so we'll be announcing those shortly. And I think we're trying to get that balance right of enforcement, proactive activity, PSBOs, all of that kind of thing, as well as the more positive kind of diversion work as well. So building on that then, obviously talking about young people, the next question we had was in relation to county lines, and what evidence shows current strategies are reducing harm to young people involved in county lines in Merseyside, and what will you change if it isn't working?
Oh, that's a tough question. So thinking about that then, county lines is about organised crime using young people, vulnerable people, to travel up and down the country, taking drugs up and down. They're exploiting young and vulnerable people.
Yeah.
So there's a sinister element to this organised crime. So straight away, if you look at that in terms of harm, rather than just looking at purely enforcement, you'd have to look at reducing the impact on those vulnerable people. So for us, an indicator for me whether it be working or not would be an increase in safeguarding referrals, and also a reduction in criminalising the younger and vulnerable people. So you're trying to get them away from the activity they're in, but focus your targeted activity, enforcement activity at the people higher up the food chain who are controlling these people, often through drugs, violence, intimidation, all sorts of things. The whole thing is deeply unpleasant. And those two things are happening. So you're getting huge increases in referrals, different pathways to support one-to-one. Operation Stonehaven, which is all about sort of targeted activity, diversion, one-to-one with people who are involved in county lines. And then the other part of it is a reduction in criminalising the people who are involved in it. So we're looking at those pathways and diversion activity that assists. I suppose the other element of it is targeting. I wouldn't want people to think we're not targeting it as well. That's got to reduce the harm. It's got to be a holistic, whole problem approach to solving it really. And I think the county lines intensification week that's just taken place only a matter of weeks ago was hugely successful. I think there was something like about 50 odd referrals alone. There were something like 36 premises visited for cuckooing. And then of course all manner, huge drug seizures, and then big numbers in terms of really big, impressive numbers in terms of arrests. So it was really, a really impressive operation. We've got some of our very best people involved in county lines, and it's the high energy, sort of very motivated people. They're the kind of people you want involved in this work. They're very incredibly motivated really, and we work cross boundaries. Well, we work with partners obviously for the diversionary activity with Liverpool Foundation, Everton in the Community, Tower Hill Boxing, Liverpool L8, and I can, the list goes on and on. There's some fantastic stuff going on, but that's why it can't be one thing. You can't arrest yourself out of it. For the harm that's being caused, you've got to keep on. You've got to keep on looking to get people away from it. I suppose to go to the second part of your question, what would you do if it wasn't working? We modify what we were doing, because we haven't got all the answers, but we've got a really good reputation as a force in this particular area. But we work cross-border with other police forces and other agencies. We're always looking to learn. And of course, we're funded nationally. So we have to give those returns in. So we're being judged and accountable on the activity we have all the time. So if there's more we can do, and there's other ideas, or there's criminological sort of evidence-based activity we can use to sort of up our offer, where it's an open door, we will do so.
And I think we've really seen the shift as well, where we really start to recognise particularly young people as being, as you say, vulnerable to exploitation, and not necessarily treating them straight away as criminals, because as you say, they are getting drawn into this by the people who are kind of higher up making the profit. We fund a brilliant organisation called Catch 22 who do exactly that kind of individual work with those young people to try and get them on a better path, which I think for the evidence I've seen is definitely working.
If it's okay, it might be worth mentioning Operation Prospect. So Operation Prospect is it's quite a hard-hitting education preventative programme that's it's led really by the firearms department or the specialist assets we've got in Merseyside. But so our armed response vehicles, our authorised firearms officers actually go themselves to schools. It's had a lot of rewards and recognition, but it is a really hard-hitting expose of what's involved in county lines, gun crime, and the evils of it. So that's worked particularly well as well. As I say, it's had a lot of recognition nationally.
Okay, we're moving on now to something a bit different. We're going to talk about technology and artificial intelligence. Now, obviously, we see technology being used in lots of different ways throughout policing, and particularly the conversation around AI and what that offers, or opportunities that offers. You are obviously the national lead for tech and digital and data and technology, which I think lots of our kind of followers might not be aware of. How do you think Merseyside Police, or how is Merseyside Police using technology now, and how could tools like AI help make our community safer in the years ahead?
So I wouldn't describe him as a technical person. I'm not sort of celebrated for my technological skills. But what I am is, I am an operational police officer with a very operational background. So what I can do is, my job is to champion the link between operational policing and technology. And technology is operational policing now. You've got data is our second most precious resource behind people. Criminals are operating at the sort of frontier, the technological frontier.
Yeah.
So we've got to keep pace with them. You know, you've got to acknowledge what they do to be able to sort of realise that you've got to keep pace with the adversary. So it's very, very important that we do everything we possibly can. So I sort of champion that nationally at every opportunity. For Merseyside as well, it's very important. Clearly, I want us to be right at the arrowhead of using technology, data, etc. In terms of AI specifically, we are investing into AI. We're looking at how we can use it. There are lots of. We're involved at the moment in the National Digital Integration and Exploitation Strategy. So the first part of AI is really the information and intelligence that's brought together. So it's integrating it across Merseyside, which we're doing at the moment. We have got good integration in Merseyside, unlike many other forces actually. The next thing then is to put artificial intelligence over the top of it and exploit it. So for instance, at the moment we're in a pilot scheme using artificial intelligence to bring all the information with Liverpool and Everton about football matches, and then make better informed decisions on how we deal with threat and risk, because you're getting more information.
Right.
So it's not just an update from the police. You'll have health, transport, every bit of information we can put in, and then you can deploy your assets in a more intelligent way. You get better value for money for the public, and ultimately it's better for Premier clubs, because in the future they may not have to sort of pay as much for policing, because we're more intelligent in how we deploy assets. Then we have the policeman resources, then the extra to go to neighbour policing. So that's one way of it. Local facial recognition. We've deployed just recently in Birkenhead. We had our first hits, live hits, where and we have a watch list that goes in for the day. We advertise it. We're very overt, very transparent, publicly known. We advertise it, in fact. On that day, we made an arrest for a male who'd be wanted for about 12 months for a domestic abuse strangulation. So you've got a person, an unpleasant person of that nature, walking around the streets for 12 months. Live facial recognition has made that intervention. And then you come to another arrest that was made for a male who was released from prison. We're talking about a week earlier, and he's arrested for an attempt burglary. So you've got two very different things there: a legacy vogue arrest and a very recent acquisitive crime arrest. Further to which, there were also about 3 registered sex offenders identified, and we did stop checks on those 3 people as well. So we've got 5 really important interventions then from live facial recognition. So that's how we're using that. So there's a multitude of ways that we're looking to use technology. Live facial recognition, we've got lifetime body cam, we're looking at that. But AI is the future. It is we've got to keep pace. It does feel like an arms race.
Yeah.
So we've got to use our money and make our investments very, very carefully now. There's lots going on at the moment. There's an NDs, National Data Integration Exploitation Strategy. It's called NDs. That's to bring all the forces together as well. And I think technology is probably one of the reasons.
Yeah.
I know it's one of the big reasons why police reform is being moved away. That's one of the reasons I'd really, really support, because you got a person who's trying to run a police force as best they can in Merseyside, but also I've got a national responsibility for a complex area of business that there's a £1 billion spend on locally across the country and a £1 billion spend nationally. That is crackers. It's underpowered, it's amateurish, and that's why you need a central lead for technology.
So one of the things that comes up quite a bit when we talk about AI, and particularly things like facial recognition, body worn camera, those kind of things, is around that, how that relates to the public, and how do you keep that trust and confidence, because it's not always had the best reputation. We know there's been parts of the country where AI maybe has not been used as effectively as it could have been, or there's concerns about disproportionality. Obviously, from my perspective, we try and put that scrutiny and oversight to kind of, keep an eye on what the force is doing. Is there anything in your world where you're trying to think about how do we use this technology? Because as you say, it can deliver some really important results, keeping the public safe. How do we make sure that we do that whilst also retaining that trust and confidence?
That's a really good point, because it's about balance, isn't it? I would love to go out quicker, because I know in my heart of hearts you've got bad people walking around in Merseyside who, if we had local live facial recognition, more of it, and we pushed it out quicker, we could take them off the streets all day long. That said, it's a new technology. Some people feel it's very invasive in terms of the personal rights. So we've got to reassure people that once that watch list has been used, your personal details, unless you're the people that have been identified and taken into custody, it's just deleted.
Right.
And that's why I think we've got to be transparent, we've got to listen, and every time someone expresses concern over the use of a technology, we've got to respond and show that their concerns are important to us, because I suppose what we're trying to do is build public trust and confidence by being a better police force using technology.
Yeah.
Well, if you're undermining public trust and confidence because you're not listening and you're going too fast and you're not responding to the concerns that the public have, you're undermining what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So you've got to go at the right pace, and you've got to listen, and you've got to be very, very careful, because you've got to build legitimacy. That's what we're trying to do. I think there's a strong case. Those examples by themselves is quite a powerful argument to say this is something that can help Merseyside get safer, become safer.
I feel like we can talk about that all day because there's so much to talk about, but I want to get some more questions in. So we're going to turn to a different topic now, which is about road safety. And again, this was a theme that came through quite strongly in a number of the questions that the public submitted. Lots of concerns around speeding, use of mobile phones, antisocial driving. Now, obviously, I think this isn't just a police issue. There's obviously wider kind of partnership work that needs to be involved in that. We launched our Vision Zero strategy a few years ago, which looks at every kind of agency playing a role in that. But can you tell us about what the police are doing to address the issues, and how your force is working to improve road safety?
Well, what the police are doing is an awful lot, and they always have done in Merseyside. I have to say, it's been a very strong force in terms of road safety, and there are key measurements there which are tragic when you think about it, called KSI, killed or seriously injured. They're the things we've got to reduce completely or eradicate in terms of Vision Zero. So we're all signed up to that in Merseyside. Right across the whole area, and that's our aspiration. So to do that, it's a complex thing to influence, but you've got to do it in a number of different ways. And we work very closely with partners. It can't be just done by the police. So the Merseyside Road Safety Partnership is very important, and it has to be quite a strong, challenging partnership arrangement. It can't be passive. You've got to challenge the different agencies and get as much from them as possible in terms of what is a very serious issue. I'm not sure every member of the public is convinced by the importance of it. So, for instance, I can go back to a time I was an inspector many years ago, neighbour inspector, and we put a road safety operation on after a young lad very tragically lost his life in a road traffic crash. There've been other issues in this on this fast road, And it was right and logical that, and to be supportive to the family and the local community, that you would do something to make the case for, calming measures, road calming measures, or a change in the roads, if you like, bumps, whatever. But we had to build that evidence case. But as you're engaged in that operation, there's still people driving past shouting, shouldn't you be catching burglars?
Yeah.
So you're never going to please everybody, but it's a very, very important issue. And when you've lost a life, or you've seen someone seriously injured, in a road traffic crash, it will change your views very quickly.
Yeah.
I think the roads could be a lot safer. I think that the standards on the road aren't good, but that's in spite of tremendous amounts from partnership. Road enforcement, roads policing departments in Merseyside have been fantastic. I mean, we're the national lead for drink and drugs. There's a lot of best practice in terms of what we do. A lot of education work, a lot of enforcement work, big numbers. But for a lot of communities members, it's not popular. It's not a popular element of policing, but it's deeply, deeply important, and we've got to keep going. But we've just got to keep explaining why it is so important and critical. That it's like we try everything we possibly can to reduce these people, people who ultimately killed or seriously injured on the roads.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and I think I had a meeting with some colleagues from Aftermath, and including some of the victims who have lost, as you say, and been affected by road traffic collision, and the hurts, the trauma, the pain they feel is real, and it would be wrong if we didn't acknowledge that, and as you say, do everything we can to tackle it. So
definitely, I mean, we've got to be more sophisticated as well, haven't we? We've got to use technology. So we're looking at technology and sort of AI. There's AI now where you can the cameras actually pick up if you're using your phone. It's not a case of I'm on my mobile phone. They can pick up the mannerisms and the MVCs and gestures of the body, and make a far more sort of sophisticated assessment of whether someone's using the phone or not. As I say, likewise, the other part of it is a partnership approach and a more evidence-based approach.
Yeah.
So, for instance, in Cumbria, there's like a crime harm index. They're using a Rome harm index. So they're using analysis to focus resources in a more intelligent way. Okay. We've taken that. That's gotten that. Loads of forces are using that now. It's great work by Cumbria. We're using that in Merseyside as well to help us apply the resources more intelligently, as I've said.
Great, good. So linked to that then, obviously when we talk about road safety, we can't miss an opportunity to talk about pavement parking, which is something that does come up a lot. And I think sometimes there are some challenges around, sometimes it's enforced by the council, sometimes it's responsibility of the police to enforce. Can you give us a bit of guidance about when it might be responsible for the police to pick it up?
The simple answer there is where it becomes a danger. Right. Each case is judged on its merits, and that's easier said than done, isn't it? But where there's a danger to road users, public, that's where the police would come in.
Right.
Typically, obstruction would be local councils. There are more powers coming in soon, so that will assist local councils in terms of how they deal with this particular issue.
Okay.
But I know it's a big bugbear and a source of contention.
Yes, no, it is very much so. Okay, right. We're nearly run out of time, so we've got a time, I think, just for a couple more questions. So we had one question submitted to us, which was around how are you working with marginalised groups to ensure that the police are supporting them?
Marginalised groups. So I suppose with a more culturally diverse community, definitely impacted by increases in immigration. Okay. There are people coming into our communities who might know what they're entitled to from the police service. That's the first example. Demographics are changing, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it's almost, they might have a different relationship in the country they've come from with their national police service. It may be. I mean, ours is policing by consent. I'm very proud, in general terms, of the police service in this country. So it's what we can do to help them and support them. We need to make them aware that we're there to support them. Like any marginalised community, the police are there for everybody. We're there for everybody. To do that, we've got to have we've got to be a diverse organisation ourselves. The networks in Merseyside are particularly strong. We've had awards nationally for diversity. I personally use them as organisational tactical advisors. It sounds a bit corny, that, but I haven't got the lived experience of everyone. I want an organisation where everyone's welcome, because if they are, it means you can police communities in a more effective way. So marginalised groups. So I think the neighbourhood model is going to help us reach out and go deeper and be more accessible to all communities. I think our community engagement department is just set up specifically for this reason. Public trust and confidence, to make sure that we've got a deeper reach, wider reach, to make sure we're trying to prove and consistently reassure people that we're accessible and available to all communities. We want everyone feeling safe here. So it's a big challenge, but it's not going to stop. And the force is, as I've said this about 3 times now, national recognition, but it's absolutely true. You can, and I know you know that already, but.
Yeah, no, well, I think it's important to flag it. And I think it's right that we were talking about some of the work that we do from my office, for example, through our Victim Care Merseyside package, where we recognise that different groups will experience crime differently. So you will need that specific support. So it's about acknowledging the different challenges, the different traumas that different groups will have, whether that's the Black community or whether it's our LGBT community, who maybe have not always had the best relationship with the police. How do we make sure that we're building that trust and confidence with them? We're there when we need them, whether that's as a victim or somebody reporting crime. So I think everything you're saying, I think, should hopefully resonate with that. Okay, so we're on to the last question. You'll be pleased to know. And hopefully a nicer question. So this is around advice for starting a career. So this is from someone who's currently applying to join Merseyside Police through the Police Constable Entry Programme, which is a 2-year non-academic route into policing. So they've asked, what advice would you give to someone starting out in their policing career?
So are they applying to Merseyside? Or?
I believe so, yes.
Right, well, that's the first choice, that's correct. So great career choice, great force choice. If you're going to join the police, it's a great job, very exciting. I'm sort of coming to the twilight of my career on the last few years, I suppose. I'll be terrified of leaving. I'll start again if I could. It's been a great job. It's a great job to join now. What advice would I give? Bear in mind, I suppose always think about being a public servant. You're joining to be a public service. Imagine where you are on the food chain. So I'm a chief constable and I'm under the public, okay, because I'm reporting to the public. When you get too big for your boots and you get lost in showbiz, it all goes a bit wrong. So if you're not comfortable with the public, being a public servant, don't join. Don't listen to people who are negative. There's always people in every organisation who drag around a big weight on a rope and telling you, that woe is me. Go, make of it what you will. Make your own way. It's fantastic. Surround yourself. Your company defines you. Surround yourself with motivated people. Because that's the best way. It's a very, very stimulating job. But there's a lot of opportunity here. A lot of people who want to help and give you more information. I mean, I'm also very grateful for them to applying for the police. To be honest with you, it's very good of them to do that. You're going to make a difference to communities. You're going to see the very best and the very worst of life. But you can make a positive influence or a positive difference on people's lives. So it's commended. But public service, positivity, strong values. Keep your values, and I suppose it's the 4 C's. Don't lose your contempt for criminality. Compassion for victims. Don't lose your compassion. You're going to be communities first. You've got to listen to what communities want. And the other thing is, care for colleagues. Look out for your colleagues. Look out for yourself. It's a tough job, but it's a rewarding job. And whoever it is, I wish them all the very best. Absolutely.
No, thank you. And I think that absolutely resonates with conversations that I have with new officers when they are applying to join, and reminding them exactly that, why they were motivated to join in the first place, coming back to that public service, coming back to the communities, because it's very easy, I think, to get lost in the challenging world that is policing. But I think exactly as you say, as long as you remember why you joined, I think I've seen officers that will go on to do absolutely amazing things. So good luck to the applicant. I hope you do well. So that's it, I think, for this evening. Thank you all very much for joining. Thank you to Rob for joining us for our first Q&A with the Chief. And thank you for all submitting your questions. I'm sorry we didn't get time to get through all of them. I know we had more, but obviously we only had so much time today. But please do submit more, and we'll try and feed them into our future scrutiny meetings, or maybe we'll do another one of these if the Chief isn't too traumatised. But that's all for now. We will see you soon.
Thank you.